what's up, guys? Welcome back to Guys at Magic. This is Hunter, Steven, Shane, and David. Say what up, boys.
Yo.
What's up?
What up, nerds?
We are back. This time, we are doing episode 2 of the Mana Rant. This is a little podcast-esque video where we just kind of talk Magic, what we think is the best topic to talk about. This time, we are going to be discussing what we think a battle could be. Now, battle is a new type of card that is coming in March of the Machines. Nobody has any idea of what it is, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to speculate, right, guys?
Right.
Because we don't know shit, but we're going to make it up and sound good.
Yeah, David's got a lot of ideas. I'm excited to hear them. I'm excited to see if we kind of agree, we kind of disagree. But first and foremost, we did get a little bit of information on a potential battle, and that was because, as have been recently on Reddit, people are finding a lot of Magic product in the trash. I don't know why. I think people are just scrapping a whole bunch of maybe misprints or something like that. But
where else do you put your cards?
But if you zoom in on the bottom of one of the pictures and you flip it upside down, you have what appears to be a new card from March of the Machines, just a very bottom corner. But on that bottom corner, you see a little flip symbol, kind of like the MDFC cards, where they flip into something else. But usually we see it on the top left, this time being bottom left, so a lot of people are speculating that could be our potential battle card. David, I want to start with you. What do you think a battle has the potential to be?
I don't know. I mean, like, I was trying to toss my head around with all of this, and they said that obviously, like, they needed to create a new card type for it, and they don't create new card types very often. So my mind kind of immediately went with, like, it has to be different enough from what we already have for it to, like, justify that. Like, immediately I just thought, okay, well, this might still live within the same design space of something like an enchantment. And then the more I thought about it, the more I figured it kind of didn't make sense to do that, because there's already, like, the subtypes of different enchantments out there. I mean, you have, like, auras or sagas, so I feel like that still opens up a lot of design space. So it has to exist outside that realm, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I kind of, when I first thought of a battle, I immediately thought of, like, fight spell cards, but those are already cards, so I don't think they'd just make a card type just for fight spells, unless they just decide to errata every single fight spell into a battle. I don't think that's doable. But I do. I mean, like, I thought it was of an enchantment.
I thought it was kind of weird because, like, I couldn't really wrap my head around what a battle would be like until I kind of saw what David had kind of put together, and it makes kind of sense, kind of like the idea you were going with, David. So I mean, I'm kind of excited to see maybe this is kind of what it might be. I don't know.
I know that here recently too, that they've been kind of playing around with different things. For example, whenever we had the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, we had the dungeon. Yeah. Or, I'm sorry, not the dungeon. What was it called?
Adventure.
No, the dungeon.
Yeah,
dungeon.
So we have cards like that, and then, like, whenever we went back to Innistrad, we had Day and Night. So there's cards that kind of, like, symbolize things that are outside of the typical scope. Like, you're not going to be able to play those, but you can still interact with them. And that's kind of where I thought, okay, well, you know what? Maybe that's more so the space that we start to see these battle cards.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I found was interesting, if you zoom in on the pieces of Magic scrap, you can kind of make out the artist name on the bottom of the card, on the bottom of what we are assuming is the battle card, and this being Viktor Titov, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. He's got a couple of pieces of artwork for Magic the Gathering that he's done in the past, but one of the things that I find really interesting is that most of his artwork focuses on a specific character. So, like, for example, he's done a couple of legendary creatures, and even the non-legendary creatures that he's done, like, they're almost always focusing on either a character or a group of characters. So for me, a battle card kind of suggests that there is an action that is occurring, not a character per se. So that actually, if anything, kind of made me a little bit more, like, kind of confused, I guess, on the overall direction. Not to necessarily suggest that they would pick an artist specifically based off of, like, a mechanic or what a card is supposed to do, but seeing his portfolio and looking at the fact that most of these are focusing on, like, a single entity, it doesn't necessarily strike me as battle.
That's true.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. Just a little bit of a food for thought.
Before we jump into your ideas, David, I know you have a lot. Shane, do you have any idea what a battle could be?
My first thought originally was kind of going off of what David said, where there's no reason for them just to make another. Like, if they're gonna make a new card type, then it's got to be different. So I almost think that it's gonna kind of function in a way of like a mini game. I know that that's maybe frowned upon. There's not really that many mini games in Magic, but I feel like something's gonna
There's
happen to
one good
where
one.
there's a good one. What's the good one? I don't even know.
What's that card?
Is that a real card?
Yeah, it's you play it and you start a sub game within the
Oh,
game.
that's right. Okay, well, maybe not like that exactly, but I think battle is going to be something that both sides of the table are going to interact with, and I think it might have things where like if one person on one side, like I almost kind of think that anyone can trigger maybe something in the battle, or maybe the one person starts the battle, and then both sides are going to be adding to this battle kind of thing. So I think we're going to see something completely new. Like I don't even know if what we're going to be showing today of like our ideas will even come close to what these is. So I don't know. I think it might even look more like a saga, where it's like different steps in it maybe, or like a planeswalker maybe. It's gonna look, in my opinion, radically different than everything else.
I mean, my thing is what I'm really excited about and what I'm kind of hoping for is it's almost like, Monarch, where you can take it from somebody. And that's going to
Maybe.
be my kind of excitement part of it because, like, I'm interested to see, like, the mechanic of which, like, is this going to be super cool in Commander? Is this going to be really good in, like, Two-Headed Giant? Is this going to be kind of, like, lackluster in just Standard? But at the end of the day, I think that in my mind, when I think battle, I think this card is on the table and if we're playing Commander, all 4 players have the opportunity to interact with it, and I think this
Yeah.
is going to be a really special kind of moment.
Yeah, and they kind of alluded, well, I mean, not alluded, but they did say, as far as the commander decks for March of the Machines, they're bringing back Plane Chase, which I also thought was
So excited.
pretty interesting that they're bringing that back on top of adding battles, because maybe it's got something to do similarly to Plane Chase. If it's not going to be, like, if Plane Chase is not in the real set, then I feel like it's got to be somewhat similar, maybe. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Anybody here play Plane Chase before?
I've never played it.
I've not.
I brought it up with Hunter actually earlier today. We're planning on getting together to play Magic tomorrow, so potentially trying it out then.
It's awesome. Okay. If you guys have ever played it, it's definitely fun.
Yeah, but first things first, David. Let's go ahead and dive into your kind of ideas. What is number one? What do you got here?
All right, so I'm a very visual person, and I like to kind of create things that helps me to kind of organize my thoughts a little bit. So I came up with a couple of just like fake Magic cards of how I could potentially try to, I guess, design a battle or the sense that you're actually in conflict with somebody. So the first kind of card that I wanted to design was a card that involved a different aspect of play. So, for example, a card that I came up with was each player reveals a creature card in their hand, and then if you reveal the creature card with the highest mana value, that you would transform the card that you cast, and then you would put it actually into a different zone. So for this, something like putting it into the command zone. And I know that we've done this kind of stuff before. We've done it with the companions, where they kind of like exist outside of the realm. So two kind of big ideas to unpack here. The first one being playability outside of a typical zone, and then the second one being you're engaging with an opponent with this unknown variable, this unknown information. So like if you cast this thing and your opponent happens to have a higher mana value creature in their hand than you, they've won the battle per se. So like your card doesn't have the payoff. You don't get the victory in my analogy here. So this kind of to me was like trying to engage once again with something that was outside of what we typically see, like trying to make it a really odd card that doesn't exist or could not exist as a enchantment or something else that we've already seen before. And then like the payoff for something like this, so say for example, you did win the battle, it would do something where it would transform into that emblem, maybe live inside the command zone or in an alternative zone. And then be able to interact from there.
That's interesting. That kind of makes me oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, you think they're going to, like you said, command zone, obviously in standard or modern or something like that, that doesn't exist. Do you think they'll have just a separate zone, maybe just for battles?
I mean, I just wanted to use Command Zone as an example because we have had cards in the past who like wanted to interact in other zones. Like, so the companions, for example, you can play a companion in a modern deck, and you start the game with it. Like, I actually don't 100% know where this technically starts the game, but I know it's not
That's
in
true.
your deck. It's not in your hand,
Yeah.
and it
Starts
is
in exile.
public information.
I do feel like it is. I think it is the companion zone.
I'm pretty sure it's
I feel like-
exile.
Yeah, it might be exile too, though. I don't know.
So I don't know, kind of piggybacking off of like what Shane had mentioned earlier, like playing with this other aspect of things, this like unknown information, engaging people in a way where it's like you're fighting an opponent, where one person is initiating, and then there's going to be like a victor from it.
That'd be really cool.
Sideboard.
Sideboard. That's where it sits.
Mm.
Yep. The chosen companion doesn't start in your main deck. Rather, it's a card in your sideboard. If you're
Gotcha.
playing casually without sideboards, it's just in your collection outside the game.
Now, I'm curious. I know that they actually did change that. Never mind. We don't have to go on a side topic.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. Shane, you were gonna say something?
I was gonna say, so in your idea, is this card a permanent, or is it just like a spell you play? What do you think?
See, so here's the thing: is that I don't know if you can make it a permanent, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the oddity of it, because if something like this becomes a permanent, how is it different than an enchantment?
My idea was that if it was a permanent, and if it's a permanent, maybe it can like steal ideas from like a saga where it won't last forever. But then again, it will just be a saga. You're right, but
I mean, I love your idea of like saga-esque, where it's like you meet this step, and then like you meet step A, and then B, and then C, and then like you pay it off. So it's like you actually are battling the whole time. It's like you have mustered your forces, and you're conquering this, and you're succeeding in the next step, and then at the very end, it's like you've paid off, you've won the battle, you've got this extra kind of ability or whatever the card is really aiming to do.
yeah. But then again, it's like, okay, well, what's it differentiating it from an existing card? I know. Tough. What do you think, Hunter?
I just gave my 2 cents.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I was busy talking to David. Sorry.
No, we were just talking about. I was thinking about in a different zone. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I'm still leaning more of an enchantment-esque. I think it is. I think battle is a permanent.
Well, how do you get rid of it? It's just gonna be like a limited time permanent. Or you think it's gonna be forever?
There's tons of cards that say destroy target permanent.
It's true.
Well, okay. Well,
They're probably gonna
Okay.
like. I'd assume they're gonna errata something to add battle throughout
Hmm.
Magic history. I don't know. It's a lot of work.
I'm hoping that they make it something different. Honestly, I'd like to see something new.
I do think it's kind of fun that they're doing these creature cards that are combos, like Thalia and Gitrog, and then now they're adding the battle S to it. Like, I just think that having all these team ups and battles coming out of the set is going to be kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing is the battle, right? By Phyrexians versus everybody else.
When do we start getting spoilers, dude?
Spoilers start pretty much at the end of this month, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's coming up soon.
Okay.
The spring set always drops around my birthday.
Happy early birthday.
Moving on, Dave. What is another example of what a battle could be?
All right. So for the viewers out there, I came up with 4 different kind of like templates that played around with different design spaces. So the second card that I had was, I'll just read it out to you. I made this all up. So it says cast a spell only if you have more cards in your hand than your opponents. And then if you have 12 or more cards in your hand, exile the card and then once again put it into the command zone. I still like playing around with another zone. That's not necessarily to say like that's where I'm ultimately leaning to on something like this. But with something like this aspect of the battle, I wanted it to not necessarily be like you're battling back and forth with an opponent, but like you have to do something to initiate this that is already caring about what your opponents are doing. So you have to have more cards in hand in this example than what your opponents would. This is honestly not my favorite design. It was just something that like I felt, how can I capture the feeling of a battle?
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of like, remember what was the game, board game we played with the mechs? where one of the ways you can get points was like you had a secret thing you were trying to get towards the entire game, and then at
Scythe?
the end when you was it yeah okay
Yeah.
it's kind of like that where you're like you have a card in your hand that has a goal on it that you're kind of just trying to get to and be like ha I won now. So I don't know like that kind of seems weird, right? Because there's no back and forth interaction there. It's only just on the one person to like try to win the battle kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really feel like a battle at that point.
Yeah,
That's
it's
about
interesting. I can see that. Just like a kind of hidden agenda.
Yeah. I
But then at
honestly,
the end of the
actually,
day,
I think I would kind of hate that design, to be completely honest with you. If
I was
everybody started off with like their secret battle.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's at that point,
I
it's
mean,
not even a battle.
I don't know. I think the thought that just popped up in my mind is probably a point for probably the end of the video, like a final thought.
Can't wait.
Okay, give us a little tease there. Okay.
Yeah, it just came in my mind, and like now I don't. Oh wait,
Well, don't forget it, dude. Write it down.
no.
What do we think of this kind of idea that David has here?
I mean, it's a cool idea. I do enjoy it. I just like, in my mind, this is when I look at this card. Obviously, I just think that this is a blue card. I don't really think that there's a battle to be had with everybody else. So that's my only thing about this card in particular. Whereas like the other one, you're like, okay, do you have a card that's better than mine? Because if you don't, I'm here. This is one of those things where it's just like, cool, let's get 12 cards in our hand, and I'll flip this card.
Dude, it's
And-
like Pack Wars, dude.
Yeah. And I think from like an overall design space, like if they're going to create a new permanent type, it does need to be wide enough where you have enough variation where you can support that new card type. And like kind of what Steven had mentioned there too, I do think that this is very narrow, and I don't think that it opens up a whole lot of playability.
Okay.
It's almost like this could just be an instant or a sorcery, you know, like it doesn't have to be a battle at this point. But I get where you're coming at from this. I do like the idea of having like an agenda.
I'm not a card designer, by the way.
Oh, I'm very
Hey.
aware.
Hey,
You're a teacher.
You're better designer than we are, apparently, because you got all these ideas.
Oh,
But speaking of ideas, you do have another one. What do you
Yeah,
got?
so we've got two more, and this next one is actually probably my favorite out of all of them. So my little made-up card here, I call it Strength in Numbers. It's a battle, and it has an ability on it where you can pay 2 in a red, tap it, and create a 1/1 human soldier. And then it says, if you control more creatures than your opponent, transform it. And then whenever you've transformed it, transforms into phalanx. It says creatures you control get +1/+1. And then it says, if you control fewer creatures than your opponent, transform it. So this one, unlike the previous, will actually bounce back and forth. So it does kind of create a little bit more of a feel of like a tug of war. If your opponents are casting creatures, it'll flip back and it'll allow you to amass that army. And if your opponents are like using removal spells or something like that, it'll bounce back and you'll lose the buff. So it does create more of a tug of war feel.
this is definitely your best idea, David.
Yeah,
this
this
feels
one
like a
was
war out
probably
of
my
everything
favorite.
else.
Yeah,
I do like
this
the tug of war idea. That is more of a little battle there.
Like
A
both sides have. I
battle?
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. No, this is probably my favorite one that I've seen so far. Just the fact that it has token creation for you, which is fucking always nice. The fact that it's a permanent on the board, and at any point you can flip it, get a buff, and then it can just flip back. It's kind of nice because at the same time your opponents are fighting you, but you always have an option to go right back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Going off of this
It-
idea too, this would be great because you could have something like this in every single color, David. Like you can have green ones that care about lands. You can have a white one that cares about gaining life. You could have like you could literally just kind of play that tug of war game in every color.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know. It's like I could see it across multiple colors. I do like the tug of war aspect with this one a lot more, which I don't. To me, battles still it suggests action.
Yeah.
Of which I like how this one at least does a little bit more. Still not sure if. I mean, I could be missing the mark entirely with something like this too, though.
We all could be
We
missing the
could,
mark
man.
entirely.
This
What
is-
Yeah.
I'm just discussing what it could be. I think you've got
I
some
mean,
good ideas.
wizards could be watching this video right now,
and they're gonna
They-
hire
laughing.
you.
They could just be like, we don't even have a battle yet. This set
You
comes
guys
out
are
in a
looking at
month. We
trash.
promise battles.
We
They
announced
could
this
be thinking
thing.
that we're looking at trash and we're coming up with ideas, dude.
Yeah.
We're literally looking at trash, coming up with ideas.
They're
Yep.
leaking the trash pictures.
That was a plant.
Well, hey, very, on the trash, it just happens to only have that one little corner, right? Nothing else.
Nothing else.
Weird. Super weird, dude.
Yeah, it would have been cool to actually see the card, but we did not see
Nah.
the card.
We saw enough.
Oh, we saw enough.
We have enough to come up with 3 or 4 ideas that David did.
Yeah,
I like this one a lot, though, dude.
That was idea number 3. We ready to move on to 4, or we got some more ideas here?
Let's hit 4. My fourth idea was just kind of given the overall nature of the set, March of the Machine. This is something that the Phyrexians are invading all the other planes, basically. So something to kind of give the feel that they are kind of invading everywhere. And I think that this also feeds in with like the legendary team ups, where you have so many characters that you want to involve in this because like you're talking about basically all of Magic's storyline. And you want to create this sense that there is a real cost and that there is this gigantic conflict. So my last idea kind of stemming off of how do they showcase that, and that being through a battle card that focuses specifically on like sets or different planes. I'm sorry. So something like this being like Battle for Tarkir. And Battle for Tarkir, my made up card here says you can discard a card to create a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying. And then if you attack with the dragon this turn, you transform it. On the transform side, I call it Mardu Assimilation, just because I think that would be fun. And it's dragons you control have Toxic 2 and are Phyrexian in addition to their other types. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you control no dragons, transform it. So same kind of thing as the last one. It kind of flips back and forth. The main design element with this being that it focuses specifically on Battle for and then like insert name of the plane. And what does that plane care about?
It's kind of piggybacks off of your last idea. And I think that's got to be where battles go, right? Because in the sense that both sides have a say in what's happening on the board. You're the one that's creating the dragons. They're the ones killing the dragons. It's just, yeah.
You're saying it's got to, what the say
What?
is on the battlefield?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I like the idea of a battle being both parties taking part in something, not just one person. And
Yeah.
Pass go.
Thank you for everyone that stuck around after that comment that Hunter made.
Thank you for everybody who stuck around to listen to our ideas.
Hey,
Our
Your ideas, I love them, dude.
these are the mana rant, right?
Oh, that was a weird
We're umming together now.
You guys just harmonized dude.
Go ahead, David.
Oh my god.
I'll pass it over to you because I do have 2 more thoughts about this overall design.
The design, discarding a card to make a 5/5 is pretty powerful.
Oh yeah.
I know you're just kind of just throwing it out there just because it's an idea, but I do like the idea of every plane having its own kind of battle, because if Magic is teaching us anything, they're just going to keep making planes, which means they could keep making battles, but that would only just mean 1 battle per set. I don't know.
That'd be okay.
So that was one of my thoughts as well, is this design space is actually pretty limited. And that was one of my concerns, is like you can only make a battle per the number of planes that you have. And then who's to say, like, past this set, there's probably not going to be some big invasion. I mean, I know that we have like Aftermath, but that's not really even a full set in and of itself. So like, are they going to introduce a new card type to just move on from it?
Card type wise, they usually don't, right? It kind of sticks around. Can you name a card type? A card type that disappeared? I mean, mechanics disappear all the time, but a card type, I don't think so.
Well, no, and that kind of being my point is that like if we have cards like Battle for Tarkir or Battle for Kaladesh, like what happens whenever the Phyrexian arc is done? And we just go back and we're like chilling on Eldraine, or we're chilling on Ixalan and continuing the story from that point. Like there's not going to be this grandiose like battle-esque feel that you want to convey.
I think it's going to be the same thing that kind of happens with the Enter the Dungeon. Like that only was for a couple sets, right, David? Like we don't see that in every set.
Yeah, but that was a mechanic.
Yeah, you're right. That was a mechanic.
So with something like this, I mean, the plane specific ones, what I do really like about them, and this was my second thought, is that this does a really good job of showcasing this conflict. Like, especially whenever you get the 2 sides of it, like you can showcase like how the plane is united, and then you can showcase like how the conflict is going and like who's winning, and from a story-wise perspective.
Yeah.
At the same time, however, I do feel like it's very restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I get that.
Unless every single set has like, I mean, there's always some kind of thing happening in every set, right, David? Like someone's always fighting someone, right? Like that's what makes a set. So
What if the
I
battle,
don't know, man.
like, what if a battle just said Thalia versus so and so?
yeah,
Like,
the same way they're teaming up on cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
actually, I do
a
like that.
versus card. But I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's gonna be a lot of hype around battle, but I think it's gonna hot take. I think it's gonna kind of be like the mechanic of the dungeon, or kind of like Monarch. You know, you kind of saw it in a couple cards, and it was kind of like, when's the last time you saw a card that came out that said you get Monarch?
I mean, never.
They're all in supplemental products.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but yeah, and once again, that's just a mechanic, though.
What would this be? Okay, so then.
Yeah, but I mean, like
don't
at the end of the day, is battle not becoming a new mechanic?
Battle is a new card type, so you're going to be able to shuffle this up and play it in your deck. You can't play with Monarch as a
okay.
physical card in your deck.
I was gonna say maybe try to draw a comparison to a physical card being the dungeon card.
I mean,
that doesn't go in your deck.
the closest comparison that we have for something like this would be like planeswalkers or equipment. Those were the last card types that were added.
Yeah. Kind of planeswalker, that'd be cool.
Well, I guess equipment is it's a subtype, but like still, I mean, like planeswalker, I guess would be the closest comparison here.
Yeah.
That was the last time they made a new card type, right?
I guess that's true. Because even though sagas are like a sub of an enchantment, right? Yeah.
And they teased last time, similar to Atraxa teasing Battle. They teased Planeswalker on what was that?
Tarmogoyf.
What about classes? What are those considered?
Those are
like the mage class and other enchantments.
Okay. Yeah.
Those are other.
So they're all just subtypes. Then. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, but I mean, that right there was exactly kind of the problem that I was running into. Is that like enchantments is so open. There's so much that you can do with it. That at what point do you take a card like Battle and you say this could not exist on an enchantment?
Right.
Yeah, but if we're going back to the initial trash, that flip symbol. Yeah. So, like you were saying earlier, like companions, this could exist in another zone, like your sideboard or just another zone or something like that, where it can only be activated if a certain stipulation's met. It just goes onto the battlefield, and then maybe it flips into something if you continue that stipulation, similar to what Shane was saying when it came to sagas.
I think I would hate that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because like, so I know that Hunter and Shane, you primarily play, like, if you're going to play constructed Magic, it's either generally EDH or you're playing on Magic Arena. And in Magic Arena, most of the time you're playing best of one. So a sideboard ultimately doesn't matter. I don't really care much for best of one. I mainly play like best of three. And whenever it comes to best of three, like your sideboard slots really matter. And if we're going to start encroaching more into that, I feel like that, I don't know, that feeds back more into like how best of one is making an impact on overall card design. And I feel like constricting a sideboard further, I don't know if I like that idea.
Well, maybe it wouldn't be in the sideboard then, because I know you're trying to allude that a sideboard's 15 cards now, right?
Like it,
can't go over 15. Yeah.
Like maybe
it just doesn't sit in your sideboard.
Right. Like David was saying, command zone, you took that as an option. This could just be its own designated battle zone, essentially. Like the battlefield has a battle zone. Who knows? Maybe that card sits there. Maybe you look at the person's battle zone. You see that they're trying to get to that card. So in best of three, you can sideboard to prevent. Maybe it's just an actual thing.
So maybe it's like what I was mentioning about a secret agenda, but it's not secret. Then that would be more of a battle, because then they're seeing what you're trying to do. They'd be like, well, I'm not going to let you do that, dude.
If it exists inside of another zone, I do think it has to be public information.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if there's anybody that's the king of not letting you do what you want to do, it's Shane.
Blue player.
Hey, you're a blue player too, Steven. Relax.
I am, but for everyone that's watched any of our fucking combat videos, I've always wanted to pop off and combo off, and Shane's always there. He's just like, no.
Sorry.
It's cool. That's how Magic normally works with these guys.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to pass it off to you, the audience. Comment down below. Let us know what you think of Battle is. Maybe you liked one of David's ideas today. Maybe you liked one of our other ideas that we kind of branched off of David's idea. Who knows? Let us know in the comment section down below. But that is going to do it for us today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Check the description where you'll find our links to all of our social media accounts. That's Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Follow us on those as well. And until the next video, hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.